Welcome back to Contextual Electronics. Today we're going to be going over a question that came up on the KiCad Info forums, basically about how to get a PCB antenna from a Gerber to a footprint, basically, or onto a board. This user had a Gerber file as an output from a simulation. Instead, I actually recommended that you go to bitmap first and then take it to footprint. And I think that this can be said more generally as, you know, if you want to construct an antenna from an app node or something else, because personally I have no idea about antennas and I can't simulate that kind of stuff. I would go from a bitmap and then create that and then put that into a footprint. So that's what I'm going to show today. So first thing I'm going to show is actually, again, if you wanted to do this, I would suggest doing it from a parametric program that can output a bitmap, right? So not Paint, but actually Inkscape. So let's open that up. So here's Inkscape. So basically, this is similar to Adobe Illustrator. This is an open source version, and basically we can draw shapes however we want to. First thing I would do though is actually switch the units, right? This is actually in pixels right now, and we're gonna switch it over to units of, in my case, inches. So this is going to inches here. And we'll close that back up. And now everything can basically be referenced inches. And the nice thing is, I said parametrically, we can actually input stuff directly here. So what I'm going to do is just draw an ad hoc antenna. I don't know anything about antennas, but I'm going to try drawing one. I'm going to double click down here, make sure that the fills are off on there's no stroke. Stroke is the outside outline basically, and then the fill is dark. And so want to have a dark fill, and then basically when we select stuff here, right? So now we can see this is the height is 0.2 inches. So we're going to make this 0.1 by, we want it less than 2 inches. We're going to make this just 1 inch wide, right? We'll zoom in a little bit. And now if you hit Control D, you can actually duplicate things. And then you can rotate. If you click again on the item, you can actually rotate. See, it shows if you're square. On the bottom there, it's showing Control to snap to angle. Holding down the Control key. Right, then we're going to just lay it over top of one another. And this is not how, I mean, again, this is just if you're trying to match an antenna here, right? So Control D again, right? And that's just allowing me to duplicate. Take this down to 0.5 now. All right, rotate. And basically, I'm just piecing together an antenna. I'm just going to approximate what I saw on that one, right? So then I'm going to say Control D, that was Control S, Control D, right? Control D. And you know, you could put these in different locations and like that too. One more time here, I'm going to rotate this one. And like I said, this is not precise whatsoever, but it should get us where we need to go right now, which is making an antenna. Okay, so now that is one contiguous shape. It's got some weird edges there we can fix. So you do need to kind of snap those together, and I'm sure in Inkscape you can actually snap stuff like that. Again, not precise, doesn't matter. Okay, so this is going to be our antenna, right? Not a real antenna, right? We can look at the total dimensions here by selecting the whole thing. Right, we see it's 1 inch by nearly 2 inches, right? That's good. And we should be able to group it together. There's it. There's usually a group. I think it's just G. Did that work? That didn't work. No. Right click. Create link. Nope, that wasn't right either. Sorry. Inkscape, not my best program. But okay, so I'm also going to put a large white rectangle behind it as kind of a template, right? So fill, I'm gonna make this white. Oops, white is here. And then I'm gonna click back over here and send it to the back, right? So now this is our template for the whole thing, right? This is how big the overall symbol is going to be, basically, because now we're going to select this whole thing and make this into the footprint. Okay, so I'm going to save this as a file with the bench buddy. So go to the bench buddy file. Oops. Okay, and then I'm going to call this antenna, and it's going to save it as an SVG so that it can be recreated later, that kind of thing. Right, now we're going to export it. Export bitmap, and it's in the right folder there, so we're just going to hit export. And now, oh, we want to actually make that 300 exactly. Sorry. Export, replace, yes. Okay, cool. So we're good there. I'm going to minimize this program. Cool. Now we're going to open up KiCad. Let's do that. Okay, we're in the bench buddy. That's good. This is on BZR 4004, so this is the one that I made a lot of the other, contextual electronics KiCad videos with. Not going to do it in the new program yet because I'm not as confident in that, but we can try it again later there. It's good practice, that kind of thing. Okay, so we're going to open up the bitmap 2 component. This is the reason we did bitmap in the first place. We're going to say load bitmap. We're going to go bench buddies here. Ooh, but that file is not. Where did I save it? That's weird. Maybe that's a different bench buddy. Ah, there it is. Okay, there's the antenna. Okay, cool. So now the antenna is in here, right? And we're going to go into grayscale picture. So this is grayscale, and then in black and white, we basically want to get it to the point where we can see it, right? So you will have to slide the threshold around, but you can see now that we did, we can see it. Okay, we're gonna hit, and it is important here. We want negative, black on white, or sorry, white on black rather, and then export to PCB new. All right, we're gonna call this antenna. That'll be a .mod. Okay, and then we're gonna open up the layout. This is the bench buddy, as you may recall. We're gonna add. We have to add the library we just created. Right, so we already had some other custom libraries in there, but I feel like I'm in the wrong one. Yeah, this is the wrong one. That's why. Okay. I do have too many versions of the bench buddy on my computer. There it is. Okay, so now we've added antenna.mod, right? So now that's a new library in here. We're gonna hit OK. It'll ask us to save. Okay, save the file. Okay, now we're going to go and add a footprint, or module rather, without any schematic input, right? So list all. Now the key thing here is you have to look for logo. This is kind of one of the dumb things about this, but we're going to hit search for logo. You see I named another one CE logo. All right. So if we look at this close up, though, we see a couple things. One is it has this weird outline. Now, we went over that in another video, but basically that is one thing that we know we need to get rid of. So what we need to do now is actually go in and modify the file manually, right? So we're going to open up antenna mod in here. First thing I do is, this is text editor in Windows. In reality, you could use any text editor, but I'm going to use Control-H to do find and replace logo with antenna. Right, and that's just going to go through and replace all of the instances of logo, right? I'm also going to replace, you see here, this is G***. That's actually the text that shows up with the logo. And we're going to I'm going to change this to A*, basically for antenna. Actually, no, well, yeah, it's fine. Sometimes antennas are Y, but I'm just going to use that one. Okay, so now the other thing here is, okay, this is the section, this is the artifact. I'm not sure why it does it, but basically these lines on the outside, that is this first one here. So we're just going to get rid of that. Hit save. Close this. I'm going to remove this guy from the layout. Escape, delete the logo. Okay. Now, I'm not sure if this is going to show up, but we'll try it. I don't think we need to reload or anything. Hit list all, antenna, and there it is. And we see that now it doesn't have that artifact, which is good. Now there's some other problems here though. One is this is on the silkscreen layer. If you see front silk right here, if I turn that off, it's gone, right? Just like everything else on the board there. That is not what we want. So what we need to do is open up this again, and then we need to change antenna.mod. Now this is really the only tricky point here, is that you see this is there's one parameter here that changes the entire thing, the entire layer, and it's actually this number right here. Now you see this antenna, A star and antenna, right? That actually is typing that in the silkscreen, right? Layer 21 is the silkscreen. However, we can look that up and see where what all the layers are supposed to be. So we'll go over to Wikibooks. There is a file format over here. We're going to search for layer number. There's a chart on here somewhere, I believe. Yeah, here we go. So this is the layer numbers. Basically, these are all the layers that we can assign to this thing. And so what we want to do is we want layer 15 front component. So we'll change this one. This one right here is actually, so basically the way it works though is this is kind of like a header for all of the coordinates that are below it. 15, we're going to save that, close it. I'm going to get rid of this guy here. Delete. Okay, I'm going to add the module again, antenna, and bingo. Now it is in, so if I turn off the copper layer, it should go away. Okay, so that is that step. However, this is not the end of the road for us, because it is likely that we want to connect nets together. And right now, well, I guess we could try this. If we draw, well, let's try dropping that back in there. If we wanted to connect this net, relay N0, then obviously it's not for an antenna, but if we wanted to drop that together, right? Oh, maybe that would work. I thought that we would need to put a pin in here. I'd like to show actually how to put a pin in here. I didn't think that was going to work actually, but I guess we won't know until we go to Gerber's. That probably would give us a huge DRC error, but let's try plotting. We'll try plot and go back to KiCad and open up Gerber viewer, and then we're going to import Gerber's from this. Oh, that's the wrong one. That's where we're going to plot. Erase all. Gerber's. Insert all. Huh. Okay, so it looks like that actually did work. I thought so that probably would give a huge error, but what I wanted to do is actually add a pin to that single one there. Let's take a look and see if we can actually even do that. So if we open up module editor now, right, we have this library. We have this. Or sorry, this is the library browser. So this is the antenna we looked at here. We want the library editor though. Open up antenna library. We need to open up the part itself. This one. Nope, that's the editor again. Sorry. It's been a little while for this stuff. I'm going to open, load module. So we load module from library. And then what I was thinking about was actually adding a pad right here. And now we can actually assign a net to this pad effectively, right? Now we make this into a two, what's it called? You'd have two nets basically we could assign to for any connection there, right? So we could actually just manually assign this net name to be ant, right? We'll call it ant plus. Okay. Yep. Drill size too small. We want a SMD. Net name not changed. Huh. Well, if we go back in and just allow it to be like that, I think. Okay, let's try saving this now. Save this antenna. Okay, so now we just added that pin there. We'll get rid of this one. The key here now is if we had a single. So we have a pin 1 now on there. We would actually want to. So if we go back into the schematic now, and we were connecting to this pin right here. Again, this is connecting to a relay. It's really stupid, but so if we connected though so if we added a footprint here, or sorry, a schematic symbol here, and it was just a connector, just a single point connector, con1, right? Wire to here. Then we would need to save. We would need to export the net. Yep. Annotate because we have a new component there. P401. And then we'd go into CV PCB, and now P401, I believe we should be able to connect to the antenna. No. There it is. P401. And now if we hit antenna, right, P401 right here is now connected to pin 1 of antenna. Save this. Go back to the layout. I know this is kind of a roundabout process, but this is kind of how you do it. And then we'd read the net list. And it should, look at that, it pulls in the antenna. Right? And now it's actually connected to that same one we connected manually. And the nice thing about that is it should allow for a non-DRC error, basically. These are actually supposed to be connected now. So this is not a good antenna, not what you'd actually want to connect an antenna to, but this is basically how you would create an antenna. And now you could have, if you needed multiple taps on that antenna, if you needed to ground it, stuff like that. Basically, this is how you would push it into the board. Now, the other thing here is that sometimes I know that you would like to have an exposed antenna, right? I think. Like I said, I'm not an antenna person. Oops. So what we would do is if we looked at that antenna, right, so this is the Bench Buddy project, what I'm going to do is actually copy this library, right, antenna.mod. I'm going to call this one antenna-solder mask. Okay? Now if I go and pull that into here, right, so now we have the same thing, module antenna, yada, yada, yada. What we would do is actually, we'd look at the layer for solder mask. Solder mask front is layer 23. So that would be here, 23. I'm going to change the name of antenna to antenna SM. So that actually shows up as a different thing in the library. That shows up as a different thing in the library here. Replace all. We're going to save this. This is kind of a tedious process, but like I said, it's all worth it in the end. And now we need to pull in the library. Add. Oh. There we go. Antenna SM. Okay. We're going to save the project again. We're going to insert a component here. And then list all. And antenna SM is right below it. And now we see this actually exists on a different layer. Now we can go and actually line this up. What we can really do is, you see that, it's kind of hard to see, but you see that tiny little blue plus there. We want to line those up over top of one another. That's how you basically can tell that they are. That's actually the center point or the lineup point for those. But basically what happens now is when you send this to the fab, basically, again, we're outside the board outline, but when you sent this to the fab, it would then go and relieve all of the solder mask around the copper. So you would have, this would all be covered in solder mask over here with a copper trace underneath, and then starting right here, if you needed to, you could have an exposed copper area over top your entire antenna. Again, disclaimer, I am not an antenna person. This is not a real antenna, but hopefully the method for getting it in there is important, or is working properly. Another thing we could actually check is that the dimensions are correct, right? So if we hit space, this doesn't look like that's full screen yet. So we want to look down here. We're going to look at the relative stuff. So if we look at, if we mouse over here and we hit space, right, that's now a relative 0. And then if we went up to the top here, it should be that 1.96 or whatever it was. Oh, sorry, it skipped over. So over here, and it looks like it is that 1.96 or so that we had in Inkscape, right? That's ultimately what we cared about, was the making sure the dimensions are properly translated over, and it does look like that. I would highly recommend that you actually do go and check that once you've imported it into your board. But if you have, it looks like that is what we wanted. So hopefully lots of you are able to go and make KiCad antennas now, and good luck with your projects. Thanks for watching.